I think that's what's really the role of a creative director for a client, is to paint the full picture for them and to connect all of those dots and to show why it's meaningful and where the purpose is and how it's going to connect with the audience. Because just describing like the technical aspects of the creative is not really compelling. It's stringing that together in a way that actually gets emotional. That's super exciting.
Well, and I think anytime we get into the nitty gritty details of the design choices that we're making, I don't think we ever stop there, right? Like we always tie it up to the bigger picture, the bigger insight and things like that. So it's not just, let me talk about our decoration for 30 minutes. It's like, and here's why it matters.
And that's at the foundational level. But I think lately I've been really having fun working closely with the strategy team, thinking about all the different ways to then proliferate that for deployment in like really fun, unique ways for testing, or, let's just slightly nuance the creative message in this way and see if it connects even deeper. And then it opens up all these new rabbit holes for the creative to kind of deepen and flourish. But that's on that like performance side versus like the foundation side. Yeah, you want to get that solidified, but to be able to then have a bigger sandbox to play in has been really fun lately.
That's what makes the work fun too. I mean, it's not just, hey, this stuff looks good and the messaging sounds, clever. I mean, it really pays off, like this thing that we've helped clients discover. And, whenever people see our case studies, I think they're more interesting because there always is a story to it. And, a lot of times we'll get comments of like, man, you guys really think about this stuff. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'd hope so, right? Like that's what you're asking us to do.
That's the crazy thing is, my background is I definitely came up in the world thinking that just the way that it appears and the initial experience is all that matters. And now knowing, fast forwarding so far to see like the results are what make the creative exciting, because that it wasn't all for naught. It wasn't just like the pretty face. It's actually the most intentional pieces that, got exciting to the audience. So the results side of creative is something that I think very few other creative directors get the pleasure of like getting to see like we do at Native.
It's so true. In my career, you would kind of do the work and ship it off and never know if it failed hard or, if it did great. Oftentimes I would, at former places, I'd walk around and be like, hey, do you remember that thing we did? Did it turn out like, oh yeah, we cut it. It didn't work. I'm like, oh. Or they'd be like, oh yeah, it was great. It's like double their numbers. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have known that,
Really?
So I think we have that benefit of basically sitting right next to each other, or having a tile right next to each other. But I think we've had a better feedback loop. And oftentimes the performance marketing team gets to be the one celebrating the wins, but sometimes it's not really strictly because of them. It's because the messaging just like really connected and the click-through rate just like shot up, and they're collaborating on that. But
I think
creatives need to know that, right?
Yeah. And I think that there's a myth that creatives want full liberty and license, but honestly, having boundaries and constraints is what really makes creativity and interesting original thoughts flourish. And so by testing, understanding kind of what's starting to work, you have a tighter sandbox to play in. But that starts to like really get exciting for my team is when it's like, okay, so I know that graphic is definitely doing really well, photography maybe not so much, or maybe we just don't have that at our disposal. Like, how can I come up with really cool, interesting, fresh ways to do this in this smaller lane to play in? And so I think it's a myth that like, I have to have these, constraints that I go with. No, that's actually when some of the most exciting ideas come out.
We've talked about this a lot, and I've always been waiting for the day when our creative team and the more analytical thinkers start really butting heads, and creatives feel like they're getting bossed around by the numbers, and analytical people say, oh, the creatives just want to do their own thing, they're not following the plan. And it hasn't happened yet, knock on wood. I hope it doesn't.
I think we'd have to hire very different people for that to happen.
Yeah. It's like, it's a function of finding people with talent, but not ego. And then I think the way we're formed and the way we've gotten to know everybody, I think there's a lot of mutual respect that prevents that from happening. But you could easily do what we're doing and it becomes a street fight, every project.
That's fair. I take that for granted though. Like sometimes I forget that it would not be as well received since we have such a safe, collaborative environment.
You go online and read a couple forums and you can hear people, oh, someone's, this department always, harsh in our crew, trying to tell me what the numbers say, but if you can do that. And I guess, it's also partially because that's been kind of a part of our thing from day one was we want to see what happens when these two groups actually get along versus just kind of work in silos.
Why I joined, I was having a ton of fun being the only decision maker for a while. And it wasn't until having the opportunity to combine the strategy and creative. Sorry. Hold on. This is going to be what I was saying is the idea that, the sum is greater than the parts is why I joined, because there were so many things that even in our early stages when we were really small, having so many different disciplines together, I'm able to like let the creative be a big voice, but then be like bolstered by the other sides. So it's like they just like make each other better everywhere. So, it might be fun in other boutique shops or even big siloed agencies to be like, man, we just are surrounded by creatives and like all I do is think creatively. But like to me, that's a limited form of creativity. Like I want my creativity to be kind of fueled by strategy, fueled by different findings and intel. And, there's so many different ways to be creative that I would feel sad if I was only surrounded by designers and writers all day. The combo is what really makes it exciting.
Yeah, it's always been, can we rival the same quality as a place that is 100% focused on creative or design? And can we also rival a place that's just like complete, like performance marketing type minds who don't have a design bone in their body, but just excellent at that? And if we can get that good and then have those sit next to each other, is that when like the X factor happens where stuff like really produces? And all those skill sets I just talked about exist at the bigger holding company type agencies, but man, getting the teams to work together, it's a real challenge. I mean, it's just you're fighting your size. So I feel like, there is such thing as a sweet spot. And I think we're in it right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do think it's like something you have to start early. It would be impossible to try to implement later down the road when you're already to a certain size with baked in processes and things. But especially our creative team, I think over the years, I've seen us learn how to ask strategically creative questions. And we're able to grow in our own technical skill sets. And, everybody on my team is always diving deeper and deeper into trends and technical new exciting innovations within the creative world. But because we're so small and they've been learning from day one to be in collaboration and really tight communication with the other disciplines, it's like as they're learning, they're applying it in new ways that just at first glance you might not.
Your team is pretty driven. Everybody on your team is pretty dedicated to their craft. What do you think is some of the common things that drive them, and what drives you?
I think almost every single person on my team would say doing work that works, and I would say the same thing. And maybe that's because we've hired for that reason, but people get so devoted to our clients. It's so interesting. And I do think that we have a tighter level of communication. There's like a shorter communication line than a lot of places. So people feel like they get to know the client and they want the work to be impactful for them. And so I think the biggest motivator is problem solving for people that they care about and for companies they care about. I mean, the least sexy on the surface clients could come to us and our team will still find ways to get excited about it. I mean, it's happened time and time again. I don't want to like throw anybody under the bus by saying like what seems not sexy on the surface, but there are definitely things that You know, at first glance, your average industry creative might just be like, that's not award winning subject matter. But like, the awards don't come from the subject matter, they come from how exciting and compelling the creative storytelling is. And so you can do that with any product. I mean, I think that's actually shows even higher level of creative ability to be able to craft it in that way. So I think that it's like, it's not about the numbers ROI, but just general impact for clients is so motivating.
There's a couple of clients right now that we have stuff going on the market, and people are just like living for it, just like, so much thought into it. If you said, hey, would you ever take a job there? They'd be like, no, why would I work there? Of course not.
That's
But
true.
right. But if you said, will you dedicate your life to them for like 6 months? They'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think creatives care, and we put them in a position to understand why they should care, I think. And we don't have to try very hard. I mean, we say, here's their history, here's their story, here's what they're trying to accomplish. And they're like, I want to help them get there.
Yeah.
And then they can switch, and they can switch gears after 6 months, after that work wraps up or whatever. But I'm amazed too. I'm like, gosh, these guys really care about this client. Like, I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah. I think part of it does go back to, I mean, my personal awareness and like emphasis on that, like, client relationship. I don't really want to hire creatives that never want to talk to a client. I want the type of creatives that we have at Native to be people that can really dialogue. And so I think building a team in that way just creates a different mindset overall about what motivates you.
Yeah, I think you're getting your finger on it right now, because because of the access that our team has to the client, and there's now a face and a story to it. And if the client is decently respectful to our team, which is usually the case, we like to work with good people, that we'll give everything to them, right? And we're not doing it necessarily for the brand or for portfolios. We're doing it for those people, for the people that we meet. And that's definitely the truth. I mean, if you ask your team right now, there's one brand right now that's going live, and you ask them, name 3 people on their team. They're like, they know them and they can tell you about them. And
exactly. Yeah. And I do think what motivates the average career creative is likely the technical aspects of getting their work out into the world. And I do think that's still a compelling, motivation. Like, people want to do exciting, sexy work. But it's interesting. Everybody is so capable of doing that. It kind of takes away the novelty. Like, we kind of know every project's going to be sexy. We've got really freaking good creatives. And it becomes less about like, oh, how can I get this like perfection out into the world? Like, we're always going to be doing an excellent job from a technical standpoint. So then you're able to layer on the extra relational aspect.
Yeah, that's cool. We hit our 5-year anniversary during quarantine, which is an awesome time to do that. So we had to cancel a couple parties, things like that. You've been with us you are the OG on the team. I mean, you've been here since, gosh, we weren't even a year. We didn't have an office at the time, and we weren't even a year old.
Yeah.
What have been some of your favorite stories that you tell coworkers or friends? Because I have a feeling you're going to have the most, but what's a few of them that always come to mind?
I do. I mean, I feel like I'm chock full of stories from every year that we've been around, because we've changed so much. And, some of my earliest favorite memories are how intensely creative we were with our problem solving, because we were not we are a print shop. We're going to do the best websites for people. Like, we were genuinely at the beginning so open-ended that we would be able to help you solve pretty much any brand and marketing and advertising problem. And that's not super sustainable. But in the early days, it made for some incredible, fun case studies. I mean, San Jose is such a good example that would be hard to pull off for most agencies, even at our size now. It'd be hard to pull off with the scrappiness that we were able to infuse in it in the early days, and just the level of attention to that project as a unique problem to solve. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe you can find another city that needs that same solution, but we would go about it in a slightly more standardized way now. And then it was just like, let's listen to people, let's get really nitty gritty, let's just roll our sleeves up and find whatever is going to work is what we want to do. And what's interesting and exciting is we still do that. It's just in a slightly more polished and refined way that's scalable, right? So that's definitely one of my all-time favorite projects and ongoing relationships with them, is that we started something that has a life of its own now, is really exciting. Man, I would be remiss to say that I don't miss our bowling alley Christmas parties. Just I think you've done a good job, and we have started from the ground up hiring really fun people that get along, and that don't just resort to drinking and awkward conversation when they're together. Like, we just have fun, and filming our own weird Christmas videos, and Aaron always being around with a camera, flying a drone in our first office. Why did we do that? It was like 200 square feet. That was such a bad idea. All kinds of just crazy shenanigans that when you have people that are super passionate about the work that they do and actually like hanging out together, you just make for some crazy, crazy stories.
It's so true. Last night at AdHop, someone asked us about culture, and I said, well, first let's talk about what culture is. I'm like, I don't think it's a list of perks and rooftop concerts. I think it's how you feel when you're around your coworkers. And went on to talk about how we basically do things that aren't really fun, but they become fun, and people can be themselves, and nobody really self-edits. They trust each other, and that trust is hard to build, but once you get it, you want to hold on to it. And if we ever get to the point where we're walking through the hall and people don't look each other in the eyes and smile, and they just ignore each other, then we've got a real problem. And Jake's like, let's just eliminate hallways. But yeah, I think so. Anything can be a good memory when you got a group like that. And we've done all kinds of weird random things that aren't really supposed to be fun, but it's we still talk about it.
I think we are constantly punching above our weight class, which is fun. There's never been a time where I feel like our group as a whole is settling. We're always, whatever that next big thing is, we're all working toward it. Whether it's even just an event, the early days of our current / most recent office, throwing big get-togethers or events and hosting things for the ad community. It felt at the time like, should we be hosting? Do people know us? And just putting that time in, getting scrappy in those ways and pushing towards it, and just owning how good we are, rather than just being like, we'll just wait and, play on the outside. No, like we have something incredible going on. And I love that we've consistently, over the last 5 years, we've got our eye on the prize forward, and we're just moving to that next exciting thing. So I can't wait to get into our new office, and that's kind of like that next exciting step.